Keeping you up to date on Western Kentucky sports, you're in the Red Zone right here on Revolution 91.7.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down.
Welcome back into Revolution 91.7. You're listening to the Red Zone here on the airwaves of Revolution 91.7. Josh Holland with Jeff Lightsy, Billy Rutledge trying to pitch a no-hitter here at Red Zone where Miranda Kramer was just short from that against Lexington. Gave up a hit in the bottom of the eighth. Right now, WKU softball in a scoreless tie in Lexington. WKU baseball, also bottom of the eighth, up 7-3 over the number 3 team in the nation. This team...
That's exciting.
The baseball team just knows how to beat top teams, and we're going to get to that here in the back half of the hour. By the time we get there, we'll have a final for you from Louisville. Fellas, a couple of positions, I guess, that have a chance for younger players to emerge and make an impact would be tight end and the back seven of the defense. And I know I said a couple positions. That's a lot of positions.
Corner,
but the outside linebacker
mainly corner.
And cornerback.
Yeah.
And those two positions on defense are pretty darn important because if you don't have good corners, then you're giving up 80-yard touchdown passes.
Well, yeah, and especially the way that Western's offense likes to play, where they score so many points, it's going to be the other
really
teams are going to try to play up to that level. And if the Western wants to play at that level, then their defense is going to have to be able to be primarily a pass defense. And especially with Wonderful Terry being a nicked-up kind of guy, he always seems like he's banged up, always injured some way. We saw him get carted off in spring training this year, which actually was just precautionary.
He was in spring training, too?
Not spring
Who did he play with?
Okay, Josh. Spring practice. But he had some numbness.
Did not play the spring game.
Did not play. It was a precautionary thing. He should be okay, but he always seems like he's banged up.
It's one of those things where the thing you love, if you're a coach or a fan about Wonderful Terry, his nose is in every single play. The thing you hate is that sometimes that nose gets him hurt.
Yes, and he's not a very big guy.
Right, but you're not going to change that about him. Like, you're going to take the risk, and I think Wonderful would agree, because that's his game. I mean, if you take the aggressiveness, if you take that tenacity away from Wonderful Terry, he's a decently fast, below average corner probably.
Yeah,
or below average.
He's aggressive and he makes mistakes. He makes the game-winning play
100-yard
saw last
touchdown
year.
reception.
But how many plays did he give up before he was able to make that play?
Name one play that he gave up.
I mean,
but
I
you
can't
can name
now, but
exactly.
I can say Illinois put 50 points on the board, or how many points that they were able to.
But you can say
he had the one interception that
100 yards.
Oh, the one interception? Are you talking about the one against UTEP or the one against Illinois or the one against Navy?
Oh, Trace interception.
Man, take your pick.
How many? That's just touchdowns. That's not interceptions.
Right, but I can go back and show you all the plays where Terry let a receiver go
or got beat,
or how many points I don't know how many points these teams scored. It was such a poor secondary last year, 120th defense in the country.
Yeah, but some of the guys that the WKU expects to have step up are players like Joe Brown, the sophomore out of Louisville, and also DeAndre Ferris, the converted receiver, converted to cornerback and safety. He's a guy that played a lot of we saw a lot of corner at him during the spring game.
Right, he talked about how he played in high school. He had a chance to go pretty big D1 in high school, so it's not a
Joe Brown did. He was all-state corner in Louisville, out of Kentucky, and he had an offer from Arizona to play cornerback. He decided to come to Western to play running back. He played his freshman year. He only had one carry, but they saw the need over in defensive back, and they converted him, and he's looked really good. I mean,
he's not the only that they converted DeAndre Ferris from wide receiver over to defensive back. That's one of those positions where a lot of times you come into college as an athlete. Now, those guys were both pegged as offensive guys coming in. But then you kind of see that maybe running back's not working out for you, but you still have this skill set of speed. You're agile, and cornerback is a lot of times where those guys go.
And also it's a chance for playing time, early playing time for both Ferris who redshirted last year, and Brown who gave up his red shirt with the carry and played a lot of special teams. But Brown and Ferris are guys that we could see play a lot this year.
They played well in the spring game.
They played really well. I think Brown was really impressive.
And he played well in the scrimmage that we were both at. Billy, he had an interception. I mean, he had that similar aggressiveness to jump routes, and I think that's a sign of a cornerback kind of knowing a game plan. I know it's easy to know a game plan of your own team, because you're in those meeting rooms.
Definitely.
But jumping those routes, the diving interceptions on like an out route or a curl route, that's not really athleticism as much as it is knowing where the ball's going. Now, obviously, you have to be athletic to dive and get it, but those aren't like the tipped one-handed catch receiving over the middle. That's knowing an opponent, being able to break on a receiver's route. And I think that that's something, if these cornerbacks like Wonderful Terry or Joe Brown that are aggressive have a little bit of help at the safety, like we saw from Brandon Leston start to provide there at the end of the year, then they can be aggressive. They can let receivers
It can
go.
also help if you have a defensive line or somebody that's actually putting pressure on the quarterback.
And that's going to help.
It makes the very good pass rush makes a poor or weak secondary play look good.
Look a lot better. It does. It definitely. It covers up for lack of secondary play if you have a good offensive, a good front seven, a good front four guys rushing the passer without blitzing and things like that. But Brown and Ferris are two guys to watch out for. Ferris, who's changed his number from 22 to 42, I think he's a guy. They really worked him. They have been working him at safety, but during the spring game with the injuries to Wonderful Terry and the lack of depth at cornerback, he played a lot of corner and he saw a lot of reps at corner with the first team. So.
Which is something that if you're a safety and maybe one of those safeties is a little bit faster than a safety,
a smaller safety,
then you can play
but
that nickel.
Quick. Yeah,
and in a college game where you're seeing 4 wide receivers a lot, then that's a chance for a guy like DeAndre Ferris to be on the field.
Definitely.
And play that nickel spot. There's also some young players that are going to be playing at linebacker.
Yeah.
Because there's a spot open left by Chill Williams, and
Great name.
it's probably going to be it's a fantastic. It was on the list of great names for WKU.
Also, Wonderful
it's the
Terry.
most chill.
What's the deal with WKU having the best names?
That's
though?
probably I think that's a Jeff
Wonderful
Brown
Tavius
recruiting
Morris.
principle.
Chill, Iggy?
Jontavius Morris.
Yeah, exactly.
I
love
think
that name.
I think it's a Jeff Brown recruiting principle.
Hey, it sounds
Do you
good.
think he goes out?
Yeah,
looks for
it's
guys
like
with great
height,
names?
weight, speed, agility, jumping,
Names.
name, bench press.
Names before bench press.
Yeah,
Is that what it's,
yeah. You can up someone's bench press. It's really hard to legally change someone's name.
Yeah,
It's not that hard.
But linebacker, Masai White played really, really well
He did.
in the game, had 7 tackles. And Joel Inyebuniwe is a guy, we'll call him Iggy from now on. Just wanted to
Iggy.
reintroduce that name.
Definitely.
Iggy's a guy that has played well all spring. And he's a guy, he is a very, very well-built linebacker. Like he can run like a safety, but he's also big enough to stand his own. And he should have some room to roam because Nick Holt's going to occupy the middle.
Definitely.
And he should have some room to roam around, especially with Dijon Brown taking up the opposite side. You start to see these little pieces that can become dangerous because of, like you said, a good defensive line. And now you've got room to roam around, room to make things happen, whereas maybe last year they were relying on Dijon Brown a little bit more for pass rush than for guarding a tight end or coming off the edge.
Also, the thing that I really like are these guys are young. I mean, the names we've mentioned: Messiah White, redshirt freshman, Joel Iggy,
Yeah,
Iggy,
Joel Iggy.
redshirt freshman. Joe Brown is a true sophomore. DeAndre Ferris, he's a redshirt freshman. These guys are young. These are guys that we're going to see in the future for Western to continue to grow and continue to get better over the season. I think they're going to have their growing pains. Now, don't get me wrong. These guys aren't going to just come in and save the day. Like for WKU, they're not going to come in and just be the greatest defensive team we've ever seen in our lives, but they're guys that they're going to take their lumps, but they're going to grow as a team and going to continue to get better and try to hopefully somewhat match what the type of numbers this offense is going to put up.
They're
on the
young
other side.
and they also have some experience because this defense is only losing 2 starters. The entire
Yes.
defensive line's coming back. You still have Nick Holt, Dijon Brown, Prince, Marcus Ward, and Brandon Leston, the starters coming back. So this team, while maybe young, it's another year under Nick Holt, and it's another year they're going to be able to gain experience. One thing I'm worried about is Wonderful Terry going to be able to
Stay healthy
and also work that number 1 cornerback position. He's going to be going against the best receivers in Conference USA. They're going to be playing LSU, Vanderbilt. There's some talented teams.
And I think
he
the
handle that
best
role?
receivers role is a valid argument for Vandy LSU. But that whole best receivers role thing, as far as the rest of Conference USA goes, you don't really see too many Jared Dangerfield-sized receivers that are like a
And
true number 1.
the rest
A
of
lot of
conferences.
times your J.J. Nelsons of last year
Yeah.
for
UAB.
FIU that are just speedsters, and oh my, like they're the best receiver on that team, but he plays a slot because of his size, right? You could argue that Antoine Grant's the best receiver on WKU. He just hobbled with an injury,
Antoine
but he's
Grant
not
is really
that true size of Jared Dangerfield.
There also still has to be, it seems like on this Western Kentucky team, a cornerback that kind of struts that number 1 mentality, though. It was Cam
Honestly,
That's
Thomas
fair.
last
I just
year.
think that it's not as important because of the way wide receivers move around. Is Wonderful Terry going to be a guy that follows the number 1, or is he going to be a guy that plays the left cornerback position? That's the more important thing for me, because he doesn't have to play the best receiver every time. If he goes, okay, I'm going to play the left cornerback position, I'm going to be a shutdown on the left side. That is just as, if not more important, because you're shutting down a part of the field than just
The one
running
receiver.
around with
Okay,
the
so
best
you,
receiver.
you don't see him being a dominant force or kind of a Revis Island. For
No,
the
I don't know.
second
I don't
or
see
whatever.
that. I see him being, of course.
That's a special thing to be that dominant.
Yeah, I think he's going to
Not
be the
especially
playmaker.
Revis, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but not even
number
that
one
type.
cornerback.
Like, Wonderful Terry is not. Revis doesn't take chances, really. Like, we talked about Wonderful's aggressiveness.
He's a safe corner. He does his job, and he just locks up your receiver. But he's not the aggressor.
He's
going
to keep you in front of him.
Yeah,
He's going to make some interceptions, but that's because
you're not going to make
you're
big
out of
plays
position.
on him. Yeah, you're not going to make a big play on Darrelle Revis. I think Wonderful Terry is more of an aggressor. He's not the play it safe.
He's
yes,
like your Patrick Peterson.
yeah, he'll get bombed on. Like
He's gonna
Patrick Peterson.
resort to athleticism.
He'll get bombed on
first.
sometimes, but he can also make really big plays, like the 100-yard reception for touchdown. 100-yard interception for a touchdown against a team like in Illinois, crunch time, things like that. But I think the depth at corner is what's going to help WKU out a whole lot. Is simply the fact that players like Dre Ferris, Joe Brown are getting experience at corner, reps at corner with Prince over on the other side. Other guys getting a lot more reps would have prepared them for these spread type teams in Conference USA. It's not just simply about having the one lockdown corner, but having a collective group that is able to play really good defense.
And
against
that's really
the opposing
important
team.
at positions like cornerback, positions like the offensive line. You're
definitely.
going to lose an offensive lineman.
No, that's
You're going to lose an offensive lineman in September. You're going to lose a corner
Write it down.
because of an ankle. Like, that's just how football works. Linebackers, you don't tend to lose that much. Defensive ends tend to be, they can play through some stuff just because they don't have to, cut as much, so you could tape up an ankle and they still be all right. You're going to lose a cornerback, and so
Definitely.
getting Ferris, getting Brown, getting all these guys reps is important. Similar on the offensive line, Dennis Edwards has been playing center the entire spring because Max Halpin's been out. Halpin's a guy that's got experience, but it's spotty. It's like he played 6 games
he
his
played
freshman year,
guard, and
then he
he's
played the
played
beginning of
different
last year
positions.
and got injured. So that's important offensive line-wise, is getting those same guys reps, because
Definitely.
that offensive line's not going to look the same as it did
In
this
6
past
weeks,
weekend.
yeah,
in 6 weeks,
yeah.
in 8 weeks, whatever it
Yeah.
is. And so that's one of the things that's interesting about the spring game is you can look at it and you can say, and pretty much for any team, you can go, well, that was cool. I like that player did this, but that's not what the team's going to look like.
No, Deb, you're going to put all these guys are collectively going to have one jersey on, and that's going to help the team out a whole lot when it comes to, especially, like I said, getting these reps, getting the depth, building depth and establishing depth between different players, and also the competition. Nobody wants to lose their job. You're fighting for your job out here, out in the spring game and the summer camps, workouts. Wonderful Terry, even though he's injured, he sees Joe Brown. He sees Dre Ferris coming in, young guys that want to play. These guys didn't play that much last year. They want to come in. They didn't come to college just to ride the pine. They come to college to play ball. So he sees these guys, and I think that's going to fuel his fire. That's going to fuel Prince on the other side fire to play better. So these young guys won't come in and take the spot.
Fighting for your job right now in the red zone.
Trying to.
Right, Jeff?
He sees these young guys. He sees Kyle Newman in studio.
And I see him, man.
He's leaning
wants
towards the
spot.
mic.
Kyle.
He's kind of got the shoulders leaning towards the mic, the body positioning. He's coming for it. We're going to come back here in the back half of the show, talk baseball, softball, that red versus white spring game. Fun for 5,100 fans, not 1,000. That would be probably a Tuscaloosa type spring game, but
Hey, how many was that? Ohio State.
99,000. 99,000.
wow. Well, there's only 4 here in studio, but we'll be back after the break. A quick update. WK softball. It was a tough one. Lost 1-0 in the bottom of the 9th. Brandon Kramer had a no-hitter going into the bottom of the 8th. We'll talk softball. We'll talk baseball coming up here on the Red Zone on Revolution 91.7.